That wholesome activity.
Yes. So what, you know, isn't the truth somewhere in the middle that whatever you think of the smoking ban, and whether you oppose it on principle or support it on principle, in terms of the business community, Trish, is it a wash?
I think it's a wash. I mean, I can't be completely impartial because we worked on the campaign to pass the
No
initiative.
kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard that a time or two.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So, I mean, I feel very strongly about the fact, I mean, there's study after study that shows that, you know, these restaurants were going to go out of business, the bars were going to go out of business, and just the opposite has occurred. I mean, you have more people that are going in because they don't like the smoke-filled bars. And people are going to go no matter what.
All right, so it's not a doomsday for the bars.
No, if they got to take a drag of a cigarette outside, they're going to take a drag of a cigarette outside and go back in. Overall, it's a healthier environment for all of us.
Plus, there's and I may have misread the ordinance when I was covering it, but from what I understand, there's a caveat in there that private membership clubs are excluded. And there have been other cities where this has happened, and if you really want your bar to be smoking, you can just turn it into a private membership club, sell membership dues for a penny at the door.
Smoking license?
Yeah.
Like a cigar club.
Yeah, like a cigar club.
Yeah.
It's still illegal there, so if you really want your bar to be smoking, there's a 1 cent per person caveat that can get you around it, and you're good to go. So, I mean, all that complaining from bars, and I understand, you know, I think what a lot of bars are upset about is they just put these scrubbers in from the first round, and then like less than 10 years later, like, hey, you remember that like $100,000 investment that you just made into your smoking section? Yeah, get rid of it.
Well, I think there's more to come too. Like I was saying this morning, a lot of I happen to know from people in the construction business. Right now, a lot of restaurants and bars are drawing up plans to build a patio or a deck.
Right.
I wouldn't do it
You can smoke on
because the next step will be what they've done in many other cities and say you also can't smoke within X number of hundred of feet of the establishment, so that patrons don't have to walk through it to get in, or it doesn't blow in through the windows or come in through the door. So I don't think we're done with regulating smoking.
No, because I mean, one of the things that they had talked about during the debate or during the policy was that they were going to make the Riverwalk smoke-free. So I mean, all those that were walking along the Riverwalk, you know, the mayor really wanted that.
I'm afraid if you remove the cigarette smoke from the Riverwalk, you might actually be able to smell the river. So
yeah.
Be careful what you wish for there. But seriously, I think that there's probably a lot more to go to this. I think we're just seeing the beginning of it.
I don't know that there's that much more to go. The patio, even under the current ordinance, you can't.
Right.
It can't be in a place where, if people are entering the establishment, in other words, under the current ordinance, that outside patio has to be in a place where people who don't want to come back into contact with the smoke it won't happen. So,
but as a practical matter, there will be people who will complain, I can still smell it, I'm still feeling the effects of it, it's still too close.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I think the Riverwalk is probably the next, that's the one big change that might happen.
Yeah. Speaking of the Riverwalk, we had a really interesting discussion. People were really passionate about these LED Christmas lights, and because I don't exactly know, I mean, I haven't seen them, I don't know how they're going to look, but I guess my sort of reaction to hearing that news, and it kind of snuck up on me, I didn't realize until just a couple of days ago this was even in the works, was that it wasn't really broken to begin with. It seems like the lights they've been using were fine. Everybody loves that. That's the postcard, right?
Yep.
Why are we fixing this?
Isn't it a net savings over time? Wasn't that the argument?
Electricity.
Well, I mean, I think it's all for the sake of saying that you're being energy efficient. I mean, you know, there's a message there. You know, if we look at conserving energy in the environment, and you know,
wouldn't it be energy efficient not to have lights?
Well, I know exactly. You know, the thing about the LED lights too is they put off kind of a blue tinge. It's not like you get like a true color.
Wasn't it during the Carter administration that they didn't light the national Christmas tree to conserve as a symbol of energy?
Yeah.
Right?
Cheery times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's a small matter. People were bringing up religious freedom and this and that. It's a small matter, but it's sort of, you know, not everything has to be modernized and streamlined.
But as a matter of fact, and I don't know this because I haven't asked anyone at the city, but I'm sure that they have to, every year when they pull out all those strands, they have to go through, they have to replace a certain amount of bulbs. So there's an investment to be made to keep using what we've got. So at some point you have to say we're going to make a break, and we're going to. It's not a complete zero cost if we don't make the change to LED this year.
Also, well, I think it's eliminating future hypocrisy. I mean, you can't. The big deal with Castro from the beginning has been, we are going to be a green city, we're going to be a clean city, we're going to be a modern city, we're going to go solar, we're going to go renewable, we're going to do all these things, and then you've got these old incandescent lights all over every.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, it's just the appropriate message.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the LED lights on the Hanukkah menorah.
Oh yes. Feel the warm glow. Oh wait, no, I can't. All right, let's talk a little foreign policy here for a few minutes. Joe Biden is in China.
Great.
Talk about losing sleep.
Georgetown basketball teams in China.
And I think possibly, Biden, yeah. I think the Hoyas have actually done more on this trip than the Veep has. He's actually fired off some pretty funny lines. He actually made a joke with the Chinese about all of the debt that they're holding. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but leave it to him. Who would have thought to go over there and joke about how in debt we are to the Chinese? One thing that's interesting, though, about foreign policy these days is we hear the term smart, foreign policy, smart strength, and this idea that you don't swagger and you don't carry a big stick. So we're over there in China, we're having these discussions. On the other hand, you have Syria, where finally this week, I guess, became the right time. I don't know what the timing was, but finally it became the right time to demand that Assad go. I don't know, maybe he had killed the requisite number of children or whatever the case might be. I don't know about you guys, but I think we need to stop talking tough until and unless we're actually going to do anything about it. I'm tired of seeing us put out strongly worded statements and stern warnings, and how empty does that look to the rest of the world? It means nothing.
Mm-hmm. I disagree. I think the voice of the United States and the voice of the American president means a lot. You read what the,
It means a lot if there's something behind it or something that's coming.
No, symbolically. You look at what the refuseniks like Sharansky said when he was in prison in Russia, and Reagan talked about tearing down the wall and letting political prisoners go. There was no muscle behind that. The United States was not going to go to war over that. But he said that enlivened them, that gave them spirit, and it's the same thing.
But behind those words, Jonathan, was the Cold War, was a U.S. military that was poised with its finger on the trigger in Europe, with the planes in the air, with the complex at Cheyenne Mountain. There is none of that with Syria. Yeah, we have zero leverage over whether Assad stays or goes there.
But we do have tools that we can give to the opposition. There are ways that we can help them.
I agree, but don't compare it to the nuclear equilibrium.
Right, but my point is that it's not just empty words. There are things that we can say, and there are things that we can do to try to level the battleground.
Well, you're saying there are things we could do. I'm not saying there's nothing
I think we are doing. We are doing it.
I don't think we're doing it.
We are doing it.
I would prefer to see this. How about you get tough, or you talk tough and you back it up with action when you really mean to do something. But when it's a place you have no intention of intervening, and we have no intention of intervening in Syria, I think you can make a better case for intervening in Syria than in Libya. But if you're not going to do it, please stop saying it. And I'm not just talking about this administration.
But that's you can make the same argument about human rights in China. We're never going to, they own $1 trillion of our debt.
But we're not telling the president of China it's time to go.
But we do occasionally lecture China about how they treat their political prisoners and how they treat their religious minorities.
I'm talking about those moments when Hillary Clinton or President Obama comes out and says things like, "It's time to go. You're on the wrong side of history." This is becoming a joke.
Every time they've said it, it's happened, except for Gaddafi, and it's about to happen with Gaddafi. I mean, look at Egypt. You've got...
It's not happening because we told them it was time to go.
My complaint about...
One does not immediately lead to the other.
My complaint about the Obama administration is that they've been too slow in making these kind of pronouncements. We don't want to be... for too long, the policy of the Obama administration has been engagement, that we can try to get Assad to moderate. That he can transition to a democratic government. I think it was clear months ago. I mean, maybe even to many people
when he was born
that was never going to happen. So I think instead, and that's that's been the United States policy. Everybody knows that's the United States policy.
Too long.
I think it's important to make a break and say, look, we've given it an effort. This guy's a loser. He's killing his own people, and we are not going to try to negotiate with him or stand by him. He needs to leave. I think it's important for the United States to position itself that way.
But Jack, you're saying you think they're just empty threats, and the more that
well, and
there's
I
no
think
muscle
we
to back up what he says.
I think we wait. You know, JT said, "Hey,
wants
eventually these regimes tumble." We wait until it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yes, if you wait long enough and then give your strongly worded lecture, it's going to happen anyway because people are laying down their lives in the street. They're not laying down their lives in the street because the American president or the Secretary of State delivered a sternly worded rebuke.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. There's nothing that makes this country look weaker or more indecisive than giving these sternly worded statements. You know, Belgium could give a sternly worded statement. It doesn't. There doesn't have to be anything behind it.
Belgium would have a higher credit
And
rate.
I hate the term we're getting on the right side of history. You know, we had a guy that wrote a book about the FBI on the show this week, and he said that Hoover used to have a policy where when FBI agents would break into an embassy to plant bugs, he didn't want to have authorized it because he'd be in trouble. So they would write him a memo asking for permission to do the break-in after they did the break-in. And that way he had it in the files. Well, to me, if you wait until somebody is literally packing for the airport to say it's time for him to leave, that doesn't put you on the right side of history.
Okay.
Now, what puts you on the right side of history, Jonathan, I agree, is taking the bold, clear step of engaging an enemy and saying we are going to prevail over you. We do not share your values, as Reagan did, and Thatcher and the Pope. We're not going to pretend that we do. That's bold. I like that. I like what we showed the dissident leaders in Eastern Europe. But what we're showing these people in Syria and Libya, where real, ordinary people are laying down their lives, is that all we can do is talk about it. There's nothing else there. Unless there's something secret none of us know about.
Well, I don't know that it's that secret, but I think the United States is doing things that we're giving tools, social media tools, now, to these people to evade detection by the Syrian government, to get around the blackouts, to get around the censors. We're giving them tools to be able to communicate with one another. We're giving them information from the outside, connections to the internet. There are things that are maybe not widely publicized, but they're not exactly secret, that we're doing to help these people. Same things that we did in Tunisia, Indonesia.
Saying on the right side of history makes it sound like we're more concerned with how we look when this is all over than in the actual outcome.
No, and it needs to be elaborated, but it's exactly what you said about the Soviet Union, is that we don't share the values of these dictatorships. We don't share the values of governments.
It's tricky,
that are
though, because we've cooperated with them, unlike the Soviet Union, where except for World War II, we never had any such dirty alliance.
It's been one of the paradoxes of U.S. foreign policy, and that's changing. It's absolutely changing.
I hope you're right. When we come back, the lightning round on Gang of Four with JT and Jonathan and Trish. It's 11:25 on KTSA.